get to the next game here. Bills Colts. Bills. It didn't look like this one was going to be a runaway, but then it looks like it at the end of the day. 30-13. The Bills just keep on winning. Highest graded players in this game for the Buffalo Bills: edge rusher Greg Rousseau with a 90.1, safety Teron Johnson with an 85.5, linebacker Dorian Williams with a 77.2, linebacker Terrell Bernard with a 70.0, and then cornerback Christian Benford with a 74.9. Quarterback Josh Allen in this one, an 80.1 overall grade. On the other side of things, for the Indianapolis Colts, defensive tackle DeForest Buckner with an 88.6. Cornerback Kenny Moore, the second, with a 78.4. Wide receiver Alec Pierce with a 77.5. And then wide receiver Josh Downs, a 73.2. Cornerback Sam Womack, the third, rounds things out at number 5 with a 72.3. Quarterback Joe Flacco in this one, handful of turnover-worthy plays. As a spitting out a 60.6 overall grade. Seth told the story. What do you got?
Just quick correction. There was 30-20. We don't want to take a touchdown away from Joe Flacco or Alec Pierce.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That's
Pierce,
on me.
Alec Pierce with a late touchdown. It's always good.
True.
Those, right?
Can't
Especially,
take it
I'm sure somebody in fantasy was thrilled.
I was gonna say I can't take that away from the Alec Pierce fantasy football owners.
You want something weird? I was watching this game, and the funny part to me, I'm gonna go on the Bills side of this. I think they're more like the Chiefs than we think they are. And look, I know they don't have Stephon Diggs, and they didn't have Keon Coleman in this game. They didn't have Amari Cooper in this game. But they ran 70 offensive plays officially in this game, all right? They only lost yardage on 3 of them, and one of them was a kneel down, and the other 2 they lost 1 yard. They have the 4th fewest negative plays in the NFL this season. Chiefs, Cardinals, Niners, Bills. Those are the teams that are...
Cardinals are in there?
They run the hell out of the ball, yeah. Those are the teams.
Good for the Cardinals.
This is getting, and I think the Commanders. Actually, no, the Commanders are middle of the road there. They can be all or nothing sometimes. But teams that are not moving backwards on offense, right? Because there's a lot of people that thought, oh, they traded Stephon Diggs. What are they going to do? They're not going to be able to move the ball or do anything. I'll tell you, you know what? That's the theme of the day. Don't screw it up. And you know what the Bills are doing? They're not screwing it up. And you look at this game, and the Colts had, 4 turnovers? And the Bills did have 2, and the 2 interceptions from Josh Allen were pretty bad. But they don't move backwards. And I could honestly point to those 2 plays, those 2 interceptions from Josh Allen, and go, it's really the only 2 really bad offensive plays the Bills made the entire day. And their defense made up for it. Complimentary football, right? I'm not going to tell you Josh Allen was great in this game, but the Bills as a unit, I think in a very similar manner to the Chiefs, they just keep moving forward a little bit at a time. They run the ball with James Cook and Ray Davis, and Josh Allen, for that matter, best red zone weapon in football. The receivers, they were down arguably their top 2 guys. They're shorthanded. They're making it happen with Curtis Samuel and Mac Hollins and Khalil Shakir, and Dawson Knox with a big catch. But they just have so many weapons, so many threats, and Josh Allen's the general of it all that they're not as explosive. You don't see them making it as many deep completions as in past years. But they just keep moving forward. And it feels like you watch this game, the Bills didn't play all that well offensively, and even the 2 interceptions, and somehow they're still at 30 points. And this is, I think that's it's funny that they're going to play this week now, coming. I think offensively they're a lot more like the Chiefs than we think they are. And it just, the style of it is, okay, we're not explosive, and we'll just accept that. Just like the Chiefs after Tyreek Hill left. All right, we're just going to have to win without Tyreek Hill, without Stephon Diggs, without being that team that chucks it 60 yards, even though we could try. Quarterback has the arm, but if we can't get open downfield like that, then we have to create shots and run the ball and do all those things. I think it's something, all those teams I just mentioned, you were like, what, the Cardinals? Well, yeah, there's a serious value in just not moving backwards.
Of course.
And just making positive plays, even if they're 2 or 3 yards. You'd rather be in 2nd and 7 than 2nd and 13, right? I mean, those minute differences and just being able to not screw it up offensively, those are the teams that are scoring points right now.
I think it's a really good point, especially when you kind of combine that with what I wanted to bring up, and that's points off turnovers. It's not like, one team was playing perfect and the other one wasn't. There were chances for both of these teams, and the Bills had 17 points off turnovers, and the Indianapolis Colts had 3. And that's ultimately sort of how you get to this point in the game. I know you said that the Colts scored a late game touchdown to kind of make this one a little bit closer, but in reality, reason the Bills were able to pull away as much as they were is because they were able to score the points off of turnovers. They were able to capitalize. Not only are you making the turnovers, it's what you do with the possession. And certainly going into, all right, this is not a team that really goes backwards. Well, that means that when you get a turnover, you can expect this team to go on a little bit of a drive here, right? It's not something where, oh, now it's just going to be 3 plays and they're going to be punting the football. Normally they're picking up at least 1 or 2 first downs. They're not going backwards like you mentioned. And so I think the points off of turnovers is a big time stat that told the story. My most disappointing is also just Joe Flacco to me. I mean, in this game, 3 turnover-worthy plays, 1 big-time throw in this one. But to me, his arm just does not have the juice. And watching Joe Flacco yesterday and then watching Shane Steichen afterwards, so I didn't watch this, I read this as a quote where he was like, Joe's a starter until he's not. Like, essentially, like, you don't have to ask me this every week. I'll make the change, and you guys will know when I make the change. But as of right now, I'm not even thinking about it. Joe's the starter. And when you have a performance like Joe Flacco gave you yesterday, which isn't, it's not like it's the worst quarterback performance I've ever seen, but very clearly, like, there are things that are left to be desired with what he's doing. And I think 2 of those turnover-worthy plays, at least the ones that I can think of off the top of my head, come from he's just older now. Like, the arm just doesn't have the juice. Unless you become a heavy, high anticipation type of a quarterback, which Joe Flacco was not in his prime years, right? There are some quarterbacks that age more gracefully, right? Like Drew Brees aged gracefully. Tom Brady aged gracefully. And even Tom Brady still had some juice left in his arm, even when he was...
Tom could probably still play right now.
Right. So he's not exactly the same, apples to apples comparison, but like Drew Brees is one of them, Peyton Manning is one of them, right? These are quarterbacks that when they were at their prime, when they were the best in the NFL, they're high anticipation passers. That was never Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was this big-armed quarterback. So when all of a sudden you don't have the big arm anymore and you're trying to learn the game at a higher anticipation type of a rate, not that he didn't do it at all before, just trying to cover all my bases because I think people are going to come after me when Joe Flacco's been certainly good when he was in his prime. It's just not his game. So now that he doesn't have the fastball, you're starting to see turnover-worthy plays every single week. So Joe Flacco really give you the best chance to win football games at this point? Is Joe Flacco really the best investment for where your franchise is going? It's not like the Colts are on we had this conversation 2 weeks ago where I think you were saying, you were like, the floor that Flacco gives you could be enough for this team to get the playoffs. Now, it still was the word could, not will make the playoffs. And now you're sitting here a couple weeks in and I'm looking at this past game with Flacco and I go, is this worth it? Is this really worth it for you? And the answer that I keep coming back to and the conclusion I keep coming back to is like, wow, yeah, they really benched Richardson because he gave up on that play. And somebody was real pissed about it. Whether it was Steichen himself, whether it was the players,
I think it's the other players.
Whether it was Rousseau, like whatever it was, like somebody was pissed. Because I don't know how you can watch what Joe Flacco gave you yesterday and not even entertain Anthony Richardson being back out on the field. I'm not trying to say he's perfect. People are going to come after me and be like, oh, Richardson wasn't playing good anyways. I agree. But you got to go out on your sword. And I don't think that playing Joe Flacco is the Colts going out on their sword. So that's most disappointing to me is just Flacco and sort of the type of quarterback that he is right now. It's just a very low ceiling for me, given the fact that he has to be a high anticipation passer, and he's not.
Personally, I don't think they have a sword to fight with. I might be jumping the gun here, but I have at least a strong feeling that their franchise quarterback is not currently on the roster. And one of the things, I'll keep it to this season first. That's just me. I've never been the biggest Richardson fan because of the lack of accuracy. I don't think they would do much better right now with either quarterback in there. And at that point, I get it where it's like, okay, play Richardson to get the reps just to see.
He needs to play at some point, right?
Even if it's unlikely that it's going to get substantially better, just to see. I get it. Right now, there was one game back of the Broncos, I think, in the playoff race. So I think they're still believing like, hey, we could swipe that last playoff spot. If we get to 2-3 weeks from now and they can't, then they'll probably switch back and go, okay, let's just see.
And I think you should, right? I think Bryce Young and Will Levis are the examples of like, hey, just put him back out there.
But here's the facts with the Colts. Their defense is not good enough. Hasn't been all year. This is not the same defense we've seen the last few years where it was at least spunky enough to keep them. They might have a weakness or two. This defense has been a mess all season. Even in this game where the Bills didn't play that well, they scored 30 points. And the injuries on the offensive line is what I'm looking at now. Will Fries has been done for the season. Ryan Kelly didn't play in this game again. He's missed a couple of games. You got a rookie, Tanner Bortolini, starting at center. Bernard Ryman tried to go in this game, played like 10 or 12 snaps. He came back out. Look, through the first 6 games, the Colts had the highest graded offensive line in football. Their last 4 games, they're 18th. The one thing that they could do when their offensive line was healthy was just keep riding it, and that might be the thing that's a playoff caliber offensive line, one of the best in the league. Now you're playing most of this game with 3 starters out from what originally was an elite unit. Flacco's not going to succeed. Richardson not going to succeed all that much behind this offensive line in its current form. And I think that I said it last week, I think it got forgotten that Bernard Ryman didn't play against Minnesota, and that's not the team you want to be missing offensive linemen. This Bills team, and should I jump into most impressive real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
You also don't want to be missing your starting left tackle when Greg Rousseau is on the other side of the field.
Not good. Not a good recipe.
I'm gonna tell you something with Greg Rousseau. Okay, let's just clear this up real quick. He's still not 25 years old yet, and it feels like to me
he's crazy.
It feels like to me he's been in the league forever. I'm going to use the word. I'm going to mess around and use the word right now. Greg Rousseau is an elite player.
Wow.
He's an elite player in the NFL.
Wow. I don't disagree with you.
Ninth highest graded.
He's playing great.
9th highest graded edge defender in the league right now. 7th most pressures in the league right now. This is a superstar. He's been on an absolute burner lately. Graded a 90 in this game, all right? Couple of run stops, couple of pressures, big strip sack of Flacco, I believe, in the second half. And you want the fun part, the run defense part. Because the one thing I worry about with the Bills is their run defense. Their linebackers were better in this game. Greg Rousseau, I got a crazy stat for you I found, okay? He played in 41 out of 64 total snaps, okay?
Okay.
When Greg Rousseau, I'll do bad news and then good news. When Greg Rousseau was not on the field, Jonathan Taylor had 8 carries for 106 yards. All right? When Greg Rousseau was on the field, Jonathan Taylor had 13 carries for 8 yards. It's him. It's Greg Rousseau. He's the X factor in this whole defense. And boy, if they could play him every single snap, I'm sure they would, because he is now actually the more I watch him, he's now far and away their best defensive player. And he's just
Oh, yeah.
What he's becoming right now through these last, I think especially the last 5 or 6, I think it's like the 3rd week in a row I've done him as most impressive, because he's taken games over. Run game, pass game, everything. And it's silly that he's still only 24 years old. This is becoming one of the elite players in football. I think we got a boatload of elite edge defenders, right? Watt and Garrett and Parsons and all these guys. Rousseau, he's creeping his way into that class of guys. And man, the Bills probably could not be happier to see that right now on their defense.
Love it. I'll shout out the Bills secondary just because they had a great day. Rapp had an interception and a pass defended. Teron Johnson an interception. He also had another interception dropped. He had those 2 passes defended. Christian Benford with a forced fumble in this one. So the Bills are just playing really good football. They are. And their record shows it. And yeah, they got Josh Allen, which I think is sort of, it's weird to say like the sweetener on top, but like the rest of the team's just playing really well. You have Greg Rousseau on the defensive line. You have the secondary playing very well. You've got a mix of wide receivers that are really showing up. You got a run game that's very complimentary right now. The Buffalo Bills are just one of the more complete teams right now. Are they playing the Chiefs this week?
Yeah.
They do play the Chiefs this week?
Yeah, this coming week, yeah.
Wow, 4:25 game in Buffalo.
This game too, if there's a thing I'm looking at going into next week, especially this was a pretty good offensive line run game. They played well. The 2 linebackers, Dorian Williams and Terrell Bernard, we've gotten on them a lot this year. They've been struggling. Both had really good games in this one. If that carries over to the Kansas City game, and maybe they're starting to figure it out at linebacker, then we start talking about the Bills' defense as a whole, because I think that's still the biggest weakness on their team. But if they can get that going at linebacker, then we have a different conversation.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.